Thank you, Madam Speaker. Perhaps I can give me a little space here, sir. Thanks. Thank you, my brother. Madam Speaker, I didn't have time to prepare a written speech on an occasion when really I ought to have, because Hugh Hart is somebody very special to me. I don't know whether my colleagues all know this, but Hugh Hart and I have been law partners for most of my career. I joined the firm of Hart, Muirhead Fatter in 1993 when it was just Hugh Hart, John Muirhead, and George Fatter. And they were all in the later stages of their career and had formed a firm so that they wouldn't retire and get bored, but would be able to practice law in a somewhat leisurely way. I was 28 and very grateful when they allowed me the opportunity to join them. I had wanted to be in New Kingston, where the firm was operating from. And I actually met John Muirhead at the recount, or the preliminary count, for Southeast Clarendon in the election when Peter Bunting ran against Hugh Shearer. And John Muirhead was Hugh Shearer's lawyer for the count. And I was Peter Bunting's lawyer. And in this course of that count, from time to time, there would be breaks and we'd sit under a tree in Lionel Town, courthouse, I think it was. And he told me about Hart Muirhead Fatter. And it struck my interest because of the flexibilities of the structure of the firm. And I wrote to Hugh, who I did not know, though my mother and Hugh had been friends in their teenage years, many, many years before. I would have been in the 1940s. And I received a call from him. I don't know where in the world he was when he called me, but this was the legend, because by that time, Hugh Hart was already a legend in the practice of law and in the business community of Jamaica. Hugh Hart is a legend. And so I was daunted and surprised and very excited to get that call. And he was just so friendly and charming, as he always was. And he said, if I want to come, they'd be happy to have me. And you know, when I got there, he gave me his office. A 28-year-old budding attorney. He was traveling a lot, and he said, we didn't have much space at the time, and he said, you use my office. So I sat in his office for several months until some other accommodation was eventually made. Hugh Hart was a brilliant man. First of all, he was charming, can't done. You know, he just had a manner in dealing with people that made people feel valued, made people felt engaged. He listened to what you had to say. There wasn't a time when I knocked on his office to discuss something with him that he didn't look up and say, Marcus, come in, man, and just put down what he was doing. And we would discuss whatever the issue was that I wanted to raise. Never once did he look perturbed. And he was always busy. You know, this was a man who had a thriving practice in his 90s. You know, he had a thriving practice. And he had a thriving practice because he brought great value to his clients. He brought value. He didn't practice law for money. Money was totally, I wouldn't even say secondary. It was very, very subordinate. He practiced law to serve his clients and because he loved the practice of the law. And he had a unique range of skills. He was as sharp as a whip. He was a brilliant draftsman. and he had a strong commercial sense. He understood finance, he understood money, he understood risks and how to manage them as a commercial lawyer. He was a mentor to me, and I feel very, very fortunate and privileged that I had the opportunity to work with him from 1993 until basically last year, when illness overcame him at the age of 95, turning 96. He was born on Boxing Day, December 26th, and he wasn't able to come to Jamaica because he actually lived in Cayman, but he came to Jamaica for most of the year. He would come in usually on a Tuesday and leave on a Friday, except during the summer months when he was always in London and then traveling sometimes in Europe. Hugh Hart was a great negotiator. He had a clear mind. He understood the tactics of negotiation. He was never daunted by whatever task he had to face at the negotiating table. And when he was in government, as I understood it, he brought those skills to bear. He went into government really because his wife's brother was the prime minister and knew his skills and wanted to have the benefit of those skills. And Hugh wanted to serve. He wanted to serve Jamaica, and he believed he could deliver a unique array of skills to Jamaica. He would never put it that way. He was a humble person. He was not boastful at all. He was gentle as well, although if you are the other end of a negotiation with him, you didn't feel that he was very gentle because you knew that you were up against somebody who was probably outdoing you in the art of negotiation. But he was a gentle person, a kind person. And when it came to young lawyers, as the Prime Minister had mentioned, certainly in our firm, which I'm the senior partner of now, all of the lawyers who joined the firm in the years after I did, and we now have, I don't even know, 20 lawyers or something, all of them were in love with Hugh. He was a mentor to all. He was the person who, if there was ever a dispute, if there was ever any disagreement, he would resolve it. He was the glue, really, that kept the place together. I will miss him terribly. I already do. And there will never be another like him. In business, he was an entrepreneur. He was a risk taker. He was a major real estate developer in his own right. Prestige homes. He and Frank Hall built a number of housing developments in Jamaica in the 60s, going into the 70s. And then when he moved to Cayman, he built several of the high-rise buildings in Georgetown, several residential developments in Cayman. And he was also respected and knew many influential business people across the world. You know, he was somebody who, you know, for example, when he was Minister of Mining and Energy and Jamaica was in problems, he could pick up the phone and he could speak to the head of major metal trading houses in Switzerland or wherever it would be, and they would take his call. And many of them became his good friends. And up to late in life, though he outlived most of them, you know, he had a close relationship with many of them. Hugh Hart, as I've said, is a one of a kind. And God bless him. He such a special individual. Prime Minister, I thank you for your kind remembrance of him, your tribute to him. It was fitting of the man. Mine isn't really, but it's partly because I'm fairly emotional talking about him. His death is recent, and he was, certainly after my father passed on in 1996, Hugh was sort of the next person of that generation who I had a kind of special, avuncular relationship really in his case. So it's a difficult thing for me to be speaking about him in here. But I'm glad that I've been given the opportunity to do so, because it is right that this Parliament should honor an exceptional minister. I think he achieved a great deal. He used to tell me a story that when he was minister, he would just get on with what he had to do. And he wasn't very familiar with the processes of government. And so the Prime Minister, Mr. Siaga, some months into the life of the government, said to him, Hugh, you have to come and tell me what you're doing. I don't know, I haven't heard anything. He said, sure. So he went to see Mr. Siagas and started to list all the things. And he said, my God, you need a cabinet submission for this. He was, sure, well, we'll do that then. But he was just getting on with it and doing what needed to be done, And that was the kind of person he was. He was impeccably honest and very, very capable. Somebody in whom a prime minister could have utmost confidence that the portfolio would be properly managed and that any challenges would be addressed in the best way they could in the circumstances. May his soul rest in peace. I should just close by expressing my condolences to his children, Lorraine, Justin and Belinda, and his sister Shirley, and all his close friends and wider family. May his soul rest in peace.
Madam Speaker. Yes. Yes.